Hey Wealth Builders, welcome back to another episode of The Bemuse. I'm Mishak.
And I'm Akiva.
And on this channel we talk about all things personal finance for young adults just like you and us.
So if you're into that kind of thing, go on ahead and hit that big red subscribe button. And while you're at it, hit the notification bell so you never miss when we post new videos just like this one.
And in this video we're going to be going over, I forgot, that's why I looked at her.
How to budget for your wedding, or at least the process we went through in creating our budget for our wedding. We filmed so many videos today, guys. We're tired.
Our first thing that we did, that we recommend that you do, is to create a tentative guest list.
Yes, your guest list is the biggest contributor to your budget in a lot of cases with, many weddings.
Yes.
So what we did early on, way before we were ever engaged, was to create a tentative list of if we were getting married today, who would we want to invite? And so we put together that list, counted up how many people we had, and started from there.
So the next thing that we did, that we recommend that you do, if you've been following us on this channel, you know that we love a good spreadsheet. So that is what we did. Akiva went on some bride website or wedding website, and she found
brides.com.
And she found a very, very helpful spreadsheet because it helped us get everything organized the way how we like it. And we will actually link the spreadsheet down below, or put the link to where you can find it and download it for yourself. And it was absolutely helpful and amazing for us. So what we did next in the process, after we had that spreadsheet, was we looked at what the industry average was for the cost of a wedding. I believe that when we looked, it was like around $30,000 was the average cost for a wedding. And I know, gasp, that's crazy. That's a lot of money. But we actually want to put some context to that, because originally I also thought that it was something that it's not. The average cost that they're talking about is from the actual cost of the engagement ring to the wedding. So we looked at the industry average and we really zoned in on the cost per plate, which we mentioned in a previous video about, cutting costs by excluding alcohol and that sort of stuff. So if the cost of a plate, which we averaged it out to be about $100 per plate, we multiplied that by our tentative guest list, and that gave us our base number. Like, that was like the lowest we would be able to spend. And that's pretty much where we kind of started. So we started to then plug things into that spreadsheet. And the guest count, or the reception cost, was the first thing that went into that budget. And then we started to really kind of puzzle and piece everything else together. It was more of I think that, Akiva's dress might cost this, so let's put that number in there. We think that it might cost this for Mishak's tuxedo. Let me put that in there. And we just kind of kept going.
It wasn't as arbitrary as you're making it seem. Like, there was a level of research or, know-how with putting those numbers in. You can't just throw random numbers in. It was like, well, I know this is how much dress, or this is how much I know I want to spend on my dress. No, I'm not lying. I'm not lying.
There we go. She said the right word. She said that how much she wanted to spend on her dress. The number that she had in there, it was arbitrary, in my opinion. It was arbitrary, and she soon realized that Mishak was correct, and it needed to be more.
But that's a story for another day.
And it needed to be more. But anyway, so we plugged things in. There was, I guess she's correct. There was some, okay, well, I know how much my nails cost, so I know how much it costs to get a haircut. So those things were, accurate figures. But then there were just some things that we just didn't know, because there were some things that we didn't necessarily have nailed down yet. We didn't know the theme that we wanted, centerpieces, how much that costs. It's also very common at some places where they don't provide centerpieces as a part of your package. So you have to pay for that either separately, or you might be able to rent the materials through them. So that would be an extra cost outside of the per plate cost. So after we started plugging our numbers in, we actually started to prioritize. And I'll let Akiva talk about that.
Yeah, prioritization is important, because we realize, with that amount of money, you can have anything you want, but you can't have everything. And that's with finances in general. You have enough money to do anything, but you don't have enough money to do everything. So we had to prioritize and figure out, okay, what do we care about? What do we not? For example, in a prior video, we talked about the fact that we decided to rent our flowers instead of buying them because we didn't care about having real flowers at our wedding. As long as we had something that looked decent, we didn't care. So that was a place where we were able to save some money, but there were other areas that we wanted to put money toward. For example, Mishak really wanted to have those fireworks that you guys saw in our, video, and fireworks ain't cheap. So, that was something that we definitely spent a good, solid, hefty coin on. That I'm glad our guests enjoyed because it was expensive. But for example, that was a priority area for us, whereas for somebody else, they may not care. My dress, though I wanted it to be beautiful, I wasn't about to spend $5,000 on a dress either. Like, to me, that doesn't make any sense for something you're gonna wear for a day. And in our planning, we realized there were things that were really important to Mishak that weren't important to me, things that were really important to me that weren't important to him. And I think honestly that was the truth with a lot of things. We did not agree on what was important. However, we had to work together to make sure that each of our top, you had to really say what are our top 2 things that we wanted. For Mishak, that was fireworks and s'mores. For me, it was a great DJ. That was top of my list. Great music, great food. Those were my priorities. So we still were able to kind of allocate the necessary money so that each of us felt like we were getting what we really wanted out of the day while deprioritizing everything else. So for example, our centerpieces were DIY. They, different things that we just did not spend as much money on because we didn't see the value in it.
I think where we both agreed the most on is that we wanted a good experience for our guests. So that is where I think we agreed on prioritizing. I guess where we got into the nitty gritty stuff of what that experience meant to us is where we disagreed. After we prioritized what was important to us, the next thing that we did was we included a buffer for unforeseen items.
And there were many.
Yes, because things just come up. And again, that spreadsheet really helps, so I can't stress enough how important and how valuable it was, because things that I truly just did not think about. Okay, you're sending out invitations, so invitations is something that is top of mind, but you need stamps for those invitations for them to go out. So, stamps is something that you have to put in your budget. Then, you have thank you cards after your wedding that you send out, which, like I said, I knew of the invitations, thank you cards, but for whatever reason, postage just didn't click for me. I don't know why. Something else that has become really popular is giving gifts, like proposals to your bridesmaids and to your groomsmen, all of these things that have kind of just been added to the wedding experience. It costs money. So that spreadsheet was very helpful because it had all of that in there, line items for everything. So it really helped me to then say, hey, well, wow, I'm just thinking reception, tuxedo, whatever, limousine maybe, that was top of mind for me. But it's no, there's a lot of little things in there that you also need to pay attention to. So after we included that buffer in our budget, we started to search for vendors that were going to be within our price range. And that, I think, is the most important thing. I'm not going to say not to dream. Go to those fancy places if you want to and look and call and get pricing over the phone. But if you know that your budget is $75 per person, don't go someplace where it's $250 a plate. Don't waste your time or theirs. Mm-hmm. That's what I would say. Because even with removing alcohol, as you will see in one of the other video, we mentioned that as a huge tip, it's not going to bring it down to $75 per plate. So don't waste their time. And lastly, we tracked our spending very closely. As we made a spend, we made sure to log it in that spreadsheet so we could keep a running total of how much we spent, how much things are looking like, that we have left to spend. And what I really liked about the spreadsheet is that it also gave you a projected line and an actual line. So we could play around with those numbers with our budget and put things in, put things there, however we wanted to do it. And I think it was showing that we were going to be over budget with what we had imagined, originally had put in there. And, thankfully I wouldn't say that we were under, we were probably just at it. We still have to finish putting in some small details into it, but we didn't go over budget, that I can say.
Yep. And so at that point, once we had our numbers down for the most part, we started saving right away. As we told you guys, we've been saving for this we saved for it for a couple of years before the wedding. So well before we were even engaged, we started putting money down with the goal of having, you know, this budgeted amount, you know, by the time the wedding would have rolled around. We talked about a tentative, you know, kind of time frame and everything like that. So also don't be afraid to have these conversations early. I mean, we've been dating since Know About the Ark, so, you know, it might be a little different, but, you know, have those conversations.
Listen, I don't care if you started dating someone a day ago. If you guys are considering getting married, have the conversation about what type of wedding you want to have. And it varies from person to person. Some people are okay going to the courthouse. Some people want to have a grandiose wedding. It's whatever works for you. There's no right or wrong thing to do. The most important thing is that you do what makes you happy and what you can afford. Because the last thing that you want to do is take out a loan for your wedding, in our opinion. It's just not something that we think you should do.
This is also from the perspective of people who paid for their own wedding. So we didn't have, you know, much outside help, like from parents or other people who are paying for our wedding for us. We footed the bill essentially entirely. I think our parents ended up putting in a little bit. So we were really, you know, prepared to foot the entire bill by ourselves. So that is also an important factor in this conversation if you're really trying to pay for your wedding, you know, on your own.
And that was our choice. Our parents would have probably put themselves into
They would have gladly taken out
debt.
all of the debt in the world to help us with our wedding. We know that. They are the best people ever. However, we wanted to make sure they weren't putting themselves in a financial bind or more of a financial bind.
And practicing what we preach.
Yeah.
You know, you can't, and again, tradition is for, you know, parents to pay for the wedding, whether it be bride's parents, groom, or some combination. Things change. But we decided that we just didn't want to do that.
We don't want to do that.
Have them put themselves further into debt than they probably already in to pay for something that is really for us. So that's why we made the conscious decision years ago to look up this information and to plan appropriately. So do we feel that that was the best decision? Yes. That money that we saved, that we spent on this wedding, could that have gone towards debt? Yeah, yes, it could have.
Could have made a nice chunk of debt with that money.
Our net worth updates would probably be very close to positive, honestly.
We'd probably be close to net worth zero by this point.
There are some things that we gave up, but at the end of the day, we're not disappointed or sad with the choices that we made.
Yeah, and we talked about this at length. There was a point in time where I was just like, nope, we're going to the courthouse. I'm not even going to have a wedding. This is not going to be a thing because that's way too much money, and look what we can do with this money. But, you know, we talked about it at length and, you know, talked about, well, will we be happy with this decision? You know, 30 years from now, am I going to be, Mishak was for the full belief that I'd be that mother who was vicariously living through my children and trying to mandate everything they do with their wedding because I didn't get to have mine. And we really sat and thought about it. And I'm like, you know what? We have worked too hard. Like, we should be able to enjoy our day with the people we love and, you know, live a little. Like, life isn't just always about dollars and cents.
Exactly.
Like, let's do it.
And my rule has always been an achievable test to this, is that we either you do it or you don't do it at all. Same thing with the ring.
Go big or go home.
Either you get the ring that you want, because we ain't doing no upgrades 5-6 years in.
This for life.
So
right
that's it. That's all you getting. You ain't getting no upgrade. Oh well, I had your kid. That's nice. That's nice. That's all you get.
I'm weak.
But that's me. So thank you for watching this video. Let us know down below, for those of you who are married, how you paid for your wedding. Did you take out a loan? How was your experience of paying that back? Are you still paying for it? Did you decide to pay for your wedding yourself like we did? Did you go to the courthouse? Did you do something that was small that you could afford? Like, we just want to know what you did, what your experience was. So share that down below. We want to keep this dialogue going. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button and the notification bell so you never miss when we post new content. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you in the next one. Bye.